Good afternoon, everybody. This is Gail Birks, and I am your host and tour guide for the Readiness Factor. I am the president of CMA Enterprise Incorporated, and we are celebrating 35 years of organizing your business puzzle, bringing process and performance improvement for your sustainable success. I am excited this month because I've got this firecracker of a lady who has agreed to join me. I'd like to formally introduce you to Tollisha Joseph. And Tollisha has a formidable presence. She is the CEO and founder of The Official Glue, and she is also a co-host with WAVS 1170 AM radio show. Let me tell you a little bit more about her before we jump into the program. And Tollisha Joseph, I mentioned she is the founder of The Official Glue, has created a unique space where individuals can connect on a professional level, engage in purposeful conversations, and welcome challenged perspectives. As an international speaker, author, and certified networking strategist, that's a mouthful right there, Tollisha has turned The Official Glue into a business playground for developing networking strategies that ignite your childlike spirit. So I'm going to look forward to hear more about that. Her company's mission is to help individuals get on the yes side of their business by connecting what they know with how they can grow professionally. Her vision is to assist as many individuals as possible in mastering the art of business networking and building long-term, highly engaged professional relationships. The Official Glue offers a variety of interactive solutions to assist its clients in learning and practicing how to develop effective referral networks that can increase their business income and client retention. Let the glue officially stick its nose in your business and sniff out the areas that are keeping your business from sticking out in the market. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Tollisha Joseph to the CMA chat room for this month's Readiness Factor. Tollisha, where are you, my dear? Come join me. Well, hello. I just gave you this phenomenal introduction, and I'm like, where did you
All
go?
of it, all the way until like the last second. And technology, we're all working with technology, and you can test it 1,000 times. And then when you know what, I believe that when these types of things happen, this is a sign that this is a good conversation about
to be a good conversation, my dear. Welcome to the Readiness Factor. And you know what? Over these next 30 minutes, I just really want to kick in and have a live conversation with you. But first, let's kind of start off with, how did you get into The Official Glue? Why did that come about for you?
It literally fell into my lap. I used to work in hospitality, so I was a bartender for 5 years. And while I was transitioning from being a pregnant woman to a mom, and I was a stay-at-home mom for 2 years, and then I transitioned into bartending because I'm like, this is something that's flexible. I can do it, and it makes sense for my lifestyle. And in my last stint, I came across a college age student who was working, going to college, and he was going on a marketing interview. And he was just, it was like a billboard that was so plain. And I'm like, how are you going into a marketing interview, but you don't look like you're marketable at this point? Give me something. And the idea just clicked. It was like, I've been working in this industry for a really long time. And what I'm recognizing is I'm working with a lot of people who are complaining about making money, but the real issue is they're not really knowing how to make the connections. So the networking strategist was born. My clients at the time would always be like, girl, you're the glue that stick everything together. So then the business name was kind of gifted to me and I just stuck with it. And here we are.
All pun intended, folks. All pun intended. And Tollisha and I met doing a volunteer event, and just like glue, we stuck together. I almost forgot.
And pretty quickly.
Pretty quick, pretty quick. Same type of business values, same type of energy and intensity for excellence. And it was just such a good fit. It was hard for me not to say, girl, you got to come on and let people hear our conversations, because I think that one of the things that I have learned over the years is that it really is all about networking, because people are going to do business with people who they know, who they're comfortable with, and they like. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I love how you kept the trust out of the conversation, because that is the most controversial spot in this know and like thing. I think you're absolutely right. We can get to know someone instantly. We can get to like someone instantly. And I think we lean too much on the trusting conversation. And that is what keeps us from doing this activity half of the time. So you're absolutely right with that. Knowing someone and liking someone is how you convert someone into a possible connection or a possible client.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? And I have to say that I've been very fortunate and somewhat spoiled in that regard, because being able to build those kinds of relationships through interactions, through client engagements, and what have you, has been one of the big keys to my success. But why is it important to have a proactive attitude when it comes to this whole networking and branding piece of being out here, whether you're in business or whether you are working within an organization? Why is that so important?
Yeah, to be proactive in networking is super important, because we're all in the people business, really. If we just rumble it down to what business are we in, we're in the people business. And if we're not proactively seeking out connections, we're losing sight of what the real purpose of our business is, which is connect with other people and let other people use our services, or let other people connect us to people who can. So we definitely have to be proactive. And where I find in the networking space is that we lean into our reactive. We're very emotional. We're very responsive, in the negative sense, responsive, because we don't want to respond to the things that we're supposed to respond, but we'll respond to some negative energy. And I think that keeps us from doing the work of networking. And the other thing I will say when it comes to networking and being proactive is, now that we're expanding our network into a digital realm, it's also about being proactive in those spaces as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know what? Let me jump in here real quick, because it looks like my LinkedIn folks are starting to burn up the chat room. And you mentioned some a specific mistake, that people tend to be reactive when it comes to networking. Oh my God, things dried up, so I need to get out here. So what are some of the other mistakes people make when it comes to networking and building that community?
Well, I think the one that I would like to address first is thinking that community building and networking are one of the same. They aren't. They're completely different. They're different strategies. One can result in another. They can collaboratively work together. But honestly, the community building side of this is the long game that everybody's talking about. And I want to help people kind of shorten the play. So, and the other thing that I think that people do when they miss the mark is thinking that networking is automatically a client acquisition activity. It is not. And you can acquire clients, but don't go in with the framework or the mindset to say, oh, I'm networking for clients. If you drop your networking pole into the water for clients, 99.99% of the time, you're going to come up with your bait still on your line. You
Yeah,
have to bait it differently. So
exactly.
those are the two primary mistakes that I find in networking.
I see another one too. I've been at events where people are just walking around and they have a stack of business cards in their hand, and they will join your circle of conversation only to say, I want to give you my business card, not even knowing if this is something you can buy or who you are. So making sure that you are strategic. And I can assure you, those business cards never got home or back to the office.
Well, I feel
Uh,
like we should just ditch the business card altogether because I
yeah,
just made a post about this on my stories, maybe we were at an event. And the truth is, someone gave me their business card at that event and it wound up in the washing machine.
yeah, that's
Right.
it.
So, in this climate, two things that we must know about networking is we have to assess the climate. Where are we? What's happening? What
Yes,
are the trends going on in the
yeah,
networking spaces? And one of the trends that people kind of miss the mark with is the digital card. And we walk
exactly.
around with one every day. We don't have to buy additional equipment or download another device. We have a phone that has a card embedded in it. Set your business card up, set up your digital business card so that you make
Exactly.
easier transactions.
Now, I've got a question for you in that. So, if you're an introvert or you're just a shy professional, how can these types of people approach the networking, the community building without feeling overwhelmed?
Well, one thing I think that is really just very misconstrued is that introverts are better at networking. They truly are. I say it all the time. They have
Yes.
extreme focus, they're very intentional, they
Mhm.
have great listening skills. So these are the things that we need when we're doing networking right. I think the thing that really keeps an introvert from networking is extroverts telling them that they need to be more extroverted.
They need to be more outgoing. And
Where I think if the one thing that I would say for an introvert who is a little bit on the shyer side is to partner with someone who is not. Don't go at it alone. Get a partner. But what you have to do when you find your partners, you have to download them with the information. So
yes.
you have to be the brains of the operation and
Mhm.
let the extroverted person become the vocal piece and really
Yeah.
working together in that idea. So I think every extrovert needs an introvert and every introvert needs an extrovert. The best way to network is in pairs.
Yeah. And I tell people this a lot, and they don't believe me simply because they normally see my business side, which is very much extrovert. And I am pretty much, when I did the Myers-Briggs, I am pretty much like just barely over the line of being an introvert. And the one thing yeah, and the one thing I realized and recognized throughout my entire career is that I was always in positions where my sustainability and success depended on my ability to speak up, close the deal, negotiate the deal, manage myself through the process. So that was my driving piece to help me manage that introvert character that wanted to kind of remain quiet and do their thing. You're not going to be seen. So, what is your end goal? If you're looking for the promotions or you're looking for growing your business, you're going to have to find that way. And I think your comment is best if they just cannot do it, have a partner. Um,
Well,
just
I think what to what you're saying, I think that this is one of the areas that I love because we're on a global stage. We don't know who's going
exactly.
to see this, and sometimes we'll take a piece of information and be like, "Oh, the only way I'm going to do it is do it scared." This conversation
Yeah,
of do it
yeah.
scared. And I don't really believe in that. I don't believe that we should go out into the world fearing the things that we're going to do. I believe that it really that mentality of it only takes one. How fast are you at finding the one that can
Mhm.
be a supreme advocate for you? right?
Exactly.
Everybody needs
Exactly.
an advocate. Even the extrovert needs an advocate because
Right.
extroverts have their own level of issue. You know, we extroverted people are really tend to be chatty, non-focused, very scatterbrained, which could
Mhm.
be a negative in the concept of an introvert being shy,
Yeah.
hermited, very isolated. We both have our own negative attributes, but
Mhm.
we each of us need an advocate. So here's the key. Write this one down. When you're networking for advocacy or affiliation. That is why we're
Exactly.
networking. So how
Exactly.
fast are you at finding an advocate,
Mhm.
someone to speak up for you? Because guess what? They're going to speak up for you while you're in front of their face, but they're also going to speak up for you when you're not in the
When you're
room.
not
And
there. Yeah.
you need to have somebody who can compound that action on your behalf.
Exactly. And there was another question that is kind of a tag onto that. And that is a moment where intentional networking made a big difference in your business journey. And I've got one. I was at a networking event, and it was a women leadership organization where the event was being hosted. And I was in a conversation circle and I was just talking with these two ladies. And one of them I recognized, and I mentioned to her, yeah, I saw your commercial today, and I really loved it, and you guys are doing such a great job within the organization. So that's how I broached the conversation. And we talked more and more, and about where the organization was going. So I was learning. And as you talk about listening, and then the other woman said, well, we've been talking a lot about, our organization, but I don't want you to feel like we don't care who you are. What do you do? And tell us a little bit more. And the minute I shared my value proposition, I thought she was going to pass out. And her response was, and this made a huge difference for me, I have been looking for someone like you. Do you have a card? We need to get together as soon as your schedule allows. Huge difference. Huge difference. So, it really is all about the timing. How about yourself?
Well, I think in that case, the intentionality, I think there's so many instances, but one I can really attest to is I literally pitched to speak through Instagram. And the pitch sounded like this. It was, hey, I was scrolling through Instagram or your profile, and I recognized that there's no faces like mine representing conversations of such. I would love to be the face that looks like mine to represent conversations and such. I would love to continue this conversation a little bit more to see how I could be the face that represents mine and such. And not only did I land one speaking opportunity from that observation of sorts, I
Mhm.
landed two. So it took me to Sarasota, and then I wind up going to Buffalo, New York, just
Wow.
off of an intentional conversation that I created in the DMs on Instagram.
Right.
I love using that one because we think that these things are only in-person things that we can do, but this is something that you can do through your digital network as well. But you have to be observant. So intentionality doesn't only mean having an intentional moment at any given point. It's
Mhm.
about having intentional observations that you can point out.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's where intentional comes in.
Yeah.
So we think sometimes when we say intentional, it's about the time, the space, the opportunity, all meeting together and making this perfect magical moment. But magic happens wherever you are. You
Wherever
can
you
make a
are.
magical moment happen wherever you are by being an intentional observer and
Mhm.
squeezing in the things that you observed in your conversation. So it's
Absolutely.
about listening and looking, not only listening.
Absolutely. And that digital space, and that's an awesome segue because we've got a couple folks who have reached into us about that conversation. I'm a huge advocate of that digital space. And one of the things that my digital manager, Steve, has done with me is that it is a little bit of a trial and error initially, but understanding where are your audiences sitting. And for us out here now, the audiences are getting younger and younger as far as decision makers. So, where are they playing? What is their watering hole? And what are the kind of messages that attract them? What are your comments on that?
Yeah, I think I love to shift. If you read my profile, you know I love to
Yes.
shift
Yes.
perspective. And I think in this conversation, we're told to focus on where the people go, where our people are, not really on how to drive the people to us, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if it's kind of like changing neighborhoods in real life. You are going to seek a neighborhood that feels comfortable for you.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to seek a neighborhood because the people in the neighborhood will remain comfortable. So first we have to seek neighborhoods that are going to be comfortable for us. So the question is, where do you like to play? Because if I have to take my energy over to Facebook, I'm not going to show up well because I feel congested just being there, truly. I love the way Instagram works. I love the way LinkedIn works. And so it works in my favor because I initially love it. So I come in with good energy just off the bat. So the first thing is figure out where you want to play. Where do you want to be? Once you figure out where you want to be, now creating conversations about who you are, what you do, how what you do can integrate well in this conversation. So making it into a neighborhood. Once you move into your house, the first thing that you should probably start doing is going to visit your neighbors, not creating content. The first thing is visit your neighbors, introduce yourself to your community. And I know we love these introduction posts, but who's seeing it if you're new to the area?
Right.
You have to go in, comment, knock on doors, and say, hello, I'm here. I want to play with you. So I think sometimes we want to draw people to us when truly we have to go out and be in the environment, be in the community. So I would say to shift that perspective and not worry so much about who's in the community. Go find your neighbors. Find the neighbors that you want to go eat dinner with, you want to hang out with, you want to invite them to go to church, you want to invite them out on a date. Find your neighbors. And then once you find your neighbors, you can invite them over to your house.
Exactly. Over the years, and I think I'd say in the last 15, 20 years, I had begun to use the digital space. And it worked well because, as small businesses, as professionals, it costs money to travel and go to these conferences and all of the things that a lot of what goes into networking and building that community. And I found early on that the digital space gave me what I needed. It gave me the access to my end users where I could go in and search for them versus trying to get a call back or whatever. I know where they're sitting. And here's the key as well. Regardless of what company they're in, their digital address in these platforms does not change. You try to do the email thing, emails change. So I learned that early on, and that has been a golden nugget that I keep very, very close to me when it comes to that networking and so forth. And also know that, and I want your commentary on this, everybody cannot be in your network.
Oh, yeah. And back to what you were saying, I think another key point is understanding what your trigger words are. I mean, a lot of this that I do is really focused on you. I say this often. Networking is the only space in your life where the world actually revolves around you. It's the only space, right?
Yes.
So when you are thinking about networking, think about how you can create the most comfortable net for you to lay in and relax. You need a hammock of sorts, right?
Right.
One that you
Right.
can lay in and relax. So what you're saying about, the addresses change and everything changing, what are your stability? What are your trigger words? What are the things that if someone says this to you, it gets you excited and you just want to talk forever about it? What are the words that you can identify that get you to your happy place, your yes side? And now this is where I belong, because this is a happy place. Even in digital spaces, I find that the words that really get me is networking. When people talk about community, I'm like, ooh, I want to know more about that conversation. I know that that's a trigger word for me. Networking is a trigger word for me. Branding is a trigger word for me, because usually when people talk about branding, they're kind of talking about networking. So it's one of these words that I'm like, give me more of that. Conversation is a trigger word for me. So if someone uses the word conversation in their content, I'm interested. So you have to know what words really pique your interest so you can engage and get involved, right? Most of the time we're trying to get our customers involved, but our customers will only be involved in the level that we're involved. This is why community building and such doesn't really work as a networking strategy, because community building is a service engine. It's a way for us to listen to our community and serve them the way they said they need to be served. Well, networking is all about, how do I need to be served? I need to be served now. So what's going to serve me? It's your selfish zone. So you can't be selfish in one area and be a servant in another. You kind of have to divide these.
What's the happy medium? And the other thing too is communities are very transient now.
Yeah.
People are constantly moving. They're fickle. And everybody now has not a flavor of the month, but a flavor of the moment. So the fickleness of it, the transiency of it is something that oftentimes people are going to find themselves either chasing, running with the pack, or they're like, you know what, you go on. I'll maybe catch up later, or not at all, because you can't keep up. So it is a moving target. And here's the other thing too: people that you might be accustomed to having encountered and done business with, they're either now retiring or leaving the industries or the organizations that you were accustomed to engaging in, and now there is a whole new crop of influencer and decision maker out there. So strategically, speak to the audience of how you are encouraging them to stay engaged in a timely way, because networking also, especially if you're in the digital space, but I've seen it also in the in-person events as well. You can spam yourself by just being everywhere all the time, in everything with everybody. And that's digital and in person. Speak to that if you don't mind.
I love how you said that. I might have to use that. Spam.
You got it, girl. You got it. Just give me a little tagline.
There is a value in vetting your net. And so the way my company kind of owns this is to say, when you're networking, it's a conversational interview. It is not just a conversation. It is an interviewing space. And I believe that the reason why the spaces get spammed is because we kind of dump them in the spam box. We don't have these conversations on site. We move them, back to your point of pushing the business cards and saying, hey, talk to me later, talk to me later, talk to me later, talk to me later. And we're not taking advantage of the opportunity to interview on site. As a job seeker back in the days, I loved when I got the opportunity to have an on-site interview. an on-site interview. So it is so attractive to your network when you sit them down and have an on-site conversation and you frame it in an interview. Now, that is one thing that we're kind of just losing focus. And when you said that the communities are I don't know why transient. I don't know why transactions is on my mind, but transient. One of the major reasons why this is happening in today's space is, one, because we have another option. We have digital as an option for us to do this kind of work. And two, it's because of the focus of the communities. The communities are really being built right now for networking, but they're being disguised as communities. And so what did I say? Networking is a selfish entity. So people are leaving because they feel that selfishness breeding through the whole community. It's like, this isn't for me, this is for them. So we don't want to stay in things that feel selfish. And because we're disguising communities as networks, it is off balance. This is why they both can't happen simultaneously. One is one for one purpose, the other is for another purpose. The owner of those communities have to create engaging networks. And I made a comment on the post that I made that, communities don't create networks. Networks create communities. So you have to network and then create a community, not create a community for networking. It only works one way. So I think, one, spend time up front, invest the time up front with good candidates that you vetted to have those on-site interviews. And we're not vetting for clients, we're vetting for advocacy and affiliation. So referral partners and mouthpieces, people who can go and run and tell people all about us, or someone who can refer us good business, right? And the other thing is, if you are looking to network, do not build a community for that purpose. Go to community for that purpose. Don't build.
And you can belong to multiple communities, if you will. This, I tell you, these conversations go by so fast. And I know that my audience, just based on some of the conversations, tidbits that they have shared, are going to be interested in keeping this conversation going with you. And it's my hope that people follow up. But one of the things I'd like to do is, let's share with them some additional information, if you don't mind. Folks, I've got some information of how you can reach Tollisha on the digital space. I've got her email here, and you can always reach her on Instagram, LinkedIn, and even the networkingstrategist.com/playbook, which sounds to me like that's a golden nugget. Why don't you tell them a little bit about that?
So the playbook is a compilation of tools that you can use to help you kind of navigate the playing space of the networking scope, right? So in there's a contact cleanse guide, because I believe that we should be cleaning out our contacts at least once a quarter, guys. Once a quarter, go in and start cleaning your connections, because connections don't last forever. They are seasonal, and you should be cleaning them seasonally. The second idea in there is a networking planner. So this will help you plan out your networking activities and really evaluate your ROI in your networking space. Networking, just like any other thing, it is an investment, and it can get a bit expensive if you're not creating a plan. So you want to make sure that you are planning out your networking activities, making sure that you are creating a networking budget so that you're not being unintentional with your movements while you're networking.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, is it easier for them to just reach out to you through these venues, or do you have a phone number that you'd like to share?
Oh, I am a responder. If you message me on Instagram, I'm
Okay.
always on Instagram. I'm always playing over there. I toggle between Instagram and LinkedIn. Those are my happy places. So if you message me on LinkedIn, you message me on Instagram, my phone number is 754-227-9322. I'm going to let you know right now, it is a vetting tool. So it does make you announce yourself before you get to me. So make it good. Make it count.
All right. Well, say that one more time so people have that.
Phone number is 754-227-9322.
Okay, I did put it in the chat box with your permission, if that's okay.
No, that's absolutely fine. And I would love
Okay.
to address this question because there's a question here that I don't think we talked about. And it said,
Okay.
I was going to ask, how do you stick out in a crowded space without being gimmicky or inauthentic?
Yes.
So I love letting people know to really work on a message. And there are different messages. You have your elevator pitch, but you need a conversational pitch. And I think pacing is a really important part of that. What I think the inauthenticity and the gimmickiness comes in is that we're not pacing out our conversations. We're not having a conversational transaction. We're kind of pushing all that information at one space on someone. So the first thing I would say is to really pace out your conversation, introduce yourself, allow someone space to introduce themselves, but make your introduction count. Give them that Googleable information up front. Don't miss telling them your name. Don't miss telling them the name of your business. And allow them to have interest in those things before we start moving forward with conversation. Once somebody says they're interested in those things, they'll ask you a question, which will trigger the next action. So remember when we said, don't be reactive, be proactive, proactively listen, proactively look at the body language so that you know if that conversation can proceed to the next point.
Absolutely. Good advice. Good advice. I know I have been in conversations where there are times when I may not even tell you what I do because the opportunity window didn't come up to do that. But it is basically a relational conversation to see if we want to have part two. And so you have to be able to read the room, read the face, read the body language. I love it. I love it. Well, folks, we are coming to the end of this show for the Readiness Factor. I want to humbly thank my guest, Ms. Tollisha Joseph of the Official Glue, who has given you some golden platinum nuggets that I'm even taking notes over here. So thank you, my dear. We meet every month in the CMA chat room, folks, for the Readiness Factor at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we do topics that are essential to you as a business leader, entrepreneur, or an individual who is just interested in staying on top to go to that next level. I want to thank you. We do have some events coming up that are for your journey to the next level. We're doing Lean Six Sigma classes once again, and we will be doing some entrepreneur classes. And if you're an organization that's going to be doing that all too important strategic planning, please come see us. Keep us in mind. Tollisha, do you have any final comments that you would like to share before we end?
No, I think that this was great. Thank you so much for inviting me and having me. This was such a quick turnaround, and I'm so excited that it turned out great. And one thing I'm going to say is that don't be afraid of networking. Networking is such a fun place. It's a fun activity for us to do. We just got to find the fun in it. So stick with me, and I will help you stick out and stay.
Thank you so much, everybody. Once again, thank you for joining me for the Readiness Factor. Let's talk out loud real soon next month on the second Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. See you soon.